It's on now.
What is that?
It's on.
It's on. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're on Yud Zayin with base. Fourth line, Boy Ravashi. So the subject was talking about the Nazir, Tamesh and Nazar, or Nazir Bekever, that he became a Nazir when he was Tameh. And that was the subject till now. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish had to understand that the Mishnah spoke about that he doesn't bring the korban tumah. Usually, when someone becomes tamei, so he has to become and Nazir became tamei in the middle of his nazirus, so he has to go through the Torah process of the meichatos on the third and seventh day. Go to the mikvah. On that day, he also cuts his hair on the seventh day, and then the next day he brings the korbanos and he starts again. And the Mishnah said that this Nazir that became a Nazir when he was Tameh, so of course he has to get out of his Tumah in order to start the Nazirus. He doesn't bring a korban Tumah. That was the Mishnah. And the Gemara spoke about the Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish yesterday, that first the question was if it was Chal at all by becoming a Nazir when he's Tameh. And then we figured out that surely it is Chal. The question is if he's Chayiv Malkus, and even that also we disproved Rish Lakish and he's Chayiv Malkus. If he drinks wine, takes a haircut, or even Tumah also could be Chayiv Malkus. The Gemara spoke about that he has to get out as soon as possible. He has to get Torah as soon as possible. And this person that was Tameh has to become Torah. So we finished the sugya so far about the Hagdara of the Tameh and Nazar. This person who's Tameh that became a Nazir, so full Nazirus. But the Mishnah said that there is no korban on the 8th day. And now the Gemara starts, Boy Ravashi on the 4th line, Boy Ravashi Nazar, usually when a person becomes Tameh in the middle of the Nazirus, besides bringing the korban on the 8th day, on the 7th day, he was also supposed to cut his hair. That's the pasuk in the Torah. Maybe we can get it on over here. This is the pasuk. I hope that it's showing on the Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is the Parshas Nasa where it talks about the Nazir, and it says pasuk Tes. The Chiyamas Meis Allah b'Pesach Hisom. If somebody dies, he became Tamei Meis. So he becomes Tamei. His head of Nazirus becomes Tamei, and he's supposed to cut his hair on the day that it becomes Torah. That means take 7 days to become Torah. It gets sprinkled with the Meichatas on the 3rd and 7th day. On the 7th day it becomes Torah, he should cut his hair. And it says again, he should cut his hair on the 7th day. And then on the 8th day he brings the Korbanos. And he starts again.
We said that's Lechatchila.
What do you mean Lechatchila? No, you're talking about 30, 31. Here we're talking about a person that became Tameh. We didn't talk about it too much. A person that becomes Tameh, he goes through the Torah process. For the 7th day he counts. And he brings the Korbanos on the 8th day.
Okay.
And he was saying that he doesn't. This person who became a Nazir when he's Tameh in the basic forest, or he was Tameh. So we said in the Mishnah that he doesn't bring the Korbanos. There's no 8th day Korbanos. Now the one wants to know, how about the 7th day Tiglachas? Does he do that also? Does he do that or not? Well, it says in Pasuk Yud on the 8th day brings Korbanos. That it says in the Mishnah that this person who's Nazir Shatami, he doesn't do. He doesn't do this Pasuk of Yom HaShmini. But on the 7th day, it says that usually a Nazir that became Tameh. So on the 7th day of his Tahara, he's supposed to cut his hair. Does this Nazir Tameh, that this Nazir, Tameh Shanazar, became Tameh, as he became a Nazir right away that he was Tameh, and there is no korban on the 8th day when he becomes, then maybe there's no din of Tiglachas either. That's the Gemara's question. So into the Gemara, that was Rav Ashi's question. A Nazar, basic chorus, he became Tameh, he became a Nazir when he was Tameh on the basic chorus. Does he have to cut his hair on the 7th day? What's the question? Kiboy Tiglachas Torah Shenitma to come in Tameh Naziruse. Only somebody that was first Torah. He started in Nazirus Torah. When he became Tameh, that's called that he was Matameh, his Nazirus. Then he has to cut that hair that became Tameh, because it was a real Nazirus. But Aval Tameh Shenazar, if right away he was Tameh when he became a Nazir, maybe then there's no din of Tiglachas, or maybe there is, or maybe there's no difference. And even if he became a Nazir Tameh, right away, he became a Nazir when he was Tameh, maybe also the din that when he comes Torah and starts his Nazirus, he does cut his hair on the 7th day. Is there a din? There's no korban on the 8th day. Maybe there's a din of cutting his hair on the 7th day. That was the most question. Tashma. So we had a Mishnah. We're going to try. We had a few brises. We have a Mishnah and a couple of brises we brought already before. and the Gemara is going to try to prove it from there. Tashma, Misha Nazir who basic verse. This is our Mishnah that he became a Nazir when he was in the cemetery. Afilu vayisham shloshim yom in olam and minyan. It doesn't count. The Chor, of course, it doesn't count because he's tamei, even if it would have been Torah, but it doesn't count. The enemy may be korban tumah. It doesn't mean korban tumah on the 8th day. That's what the Mishnah says, and that's what the Gemara is going to try. This is a quote from the Mishnah, mamish word for word from the Mishnah.
Yeah.
And the Gemara wants to be medayik. We did other dukim also. We try for this the third time we bring the Mishnah to try to make the dukim from it. Here the diuk is going to be that the only difference is that he doesn't bring a korban tumah. Can we not be medayik? Can we not derive from this korban tumah hu dalamaisi? Aval galuchi boy. The judge says that he doesn't bring a korban tumah. Mashma everything else is the same. So on the 8th day he doesn't bring a korban tumah, but on the 7th day he will take a haircut like every nazir that becomes tamei. That on the 7th day of his tar he cuts his hair. But the Gemara says no, not necessarily. You could say that it all goes together. Ma'atam kamar. The expression of the Gemara is not usually the way it uses it over here. Ma'atam kamar means that it's explaining why. Ma'atam ena maybe korban tumah mishum delo boy giluche. The Rishonim say that it just means to say that it goes hand in hand. These two things go together. We don't have to express each one. If we say that it doesn't bring a korban on the 8th day, that also means that he doesn't have a haircut on the 7th day. They go together. So you don't have to say both of them. If he's maybe that he also does not, the Gemara wants to bring a right that he does need a haircut. But the Gemara says maybe he doesn't. It goes together. If he doesn't bring a korban, then he's not going to have to take a haircut either on the 7th day.
Mishum, what does Mishum?
The literal words means it's explaining the reason. It means the reason it's a din with its explanation. How come he doesn't bring a korban tumah? Because Mishum, because he doesn't need to take a haircut. Since he doesn't take a haircut on the 7th day, therefore he doesn't bring a korban on the 8th day.
It didn't bring a korban.
So it's including, so to speak.
The cause was because he didn't.
Because of the right. And the Gemara expects that, even though the Gemara says, and he seems forward, the Gemara has two studies. The Gemara doesn't know. The Gemara says, in the question alone, it could be that he needs a haircut, even though he doesn't bring a korban. But the Gemara says on the other side, it is dependent. If it's dependent, it doesn't have to speak out each one. If it says that he doesn't need a korban, that already includes that he doesn't take a haircut. So the Gemara doesn't see a right from this Mishnah. That's good?
Either way.
Either way, we don't know. The Gemara says maybe it says here that we can derive since it doesn't say it. So it's business as usual.
It's included or it's excluded.
Right. So the Gemara doesn't have a right. Tashma, now we're going to be right from our brisa. Also, we had this brisa a couple of times already. Ein bein tamei shen nazar the nazir tor shen nitma. There's no difference. Like one of those ein beins that it doesn't say it over there in the Megillah, but there's no difference between a tamei shen nazar. That's our case. Tamei shen nazar is a person who became a nazir when he's already tamei in the cemetery, or he was tamei anyway, and he became a nazir. To a regular nazir that became tamei, a regular nazir Torah that became tamei in the middle of his counting. What's the difference? Ela tamei shen nazar shvi shelo olam min aminyan. This person that became a nazir when he's already tamei, so day 7 counts as day 1. Means day 7 of his Torah process, we tell him get Torah and then start. So when he starts day 7, that he got the sprinkle from the Meichatas and he went to the mikvah, can also count as day 1 of his counting. But a regular nazir that the Torah is talking about, that it was a Noah Torah that became tamei, ain't shvi shelo olam min aminyan. He doesn't count the 7th day. What's the case over there? We said that he gets Torah, the 7-day process of sprinkling the 3rd and 7th day. He goes to the mikvah on the 7th day, cuts his hair on the 7th day, brings the korbanos on the 8th day, and then he starts counting. So that's the difference that the Brisa said, that the regular Nazir Torah that became tamei, he doesn't start his count until the 8th day. And this Nazir that became a Nazir when he's tamei, he became a Nazir b'veisek kvoros, Nazir tamei. So then he's gonna count the 7th day.
So we're trying to show that he wouldn't.
So what do we see?
He wouldn't have to cut his hair, or that he wouldn't.
So the Gemara doesn't say. The Gemara is gonna now work on the Brisa. So far, it's just quoting the Brisa. Now the Gemara says, "What could be the right? My love, if it says this is the only difference, so that's the only difference. The only difference is if he counts the 7th day as day number 1. This is the only difference. This is the only difference. Of course, the difference is also the cover. Well, everything else is the same. So it means that the regular din that a Nazir that became tamei, a Nazir Torah that became tamei, he does take a haircut on the 7th day. Same also. It doesn't say that it's different if it's not different. So it says everything else is the same. So maybe we could derive that for taking a haircut, they are the same. And even if he became a Nazir when he's already tamei, also he has to take a haircut on the 7th day. But the Gemara is matchadat also. Low, not necessarily. Maybe just derive Hala Malkus Eves Hashavim. It just means that otherwise he's a regular Nazir, that's Chayv Malkus if he transgresses. Like that was yesterday's question with Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. That was Rabbi Yochanan said that he's Chayv Malkus also. The Naziris that he made upon himself when he's in the basic chorus, does take effect, and he's even chayiv malchus if he transgresses it. And Rish Lakish thought not. And here we're going to say that it says yes, that the person who became a nazir when he's tamei is a full nazir, that he's chayiv malchus if he transgresses it. But don't be medayik that for tiglachas, even though it says ein vein, that not know what the difference. So we're saying no other difference, but as far as malchus, it's the same. But the Gemara still is not happy. But if you want to say that as far as the haircut, there's also a difference. You're saying that it's not the only difference if you count the 7 day 7 or not. There's another difference also, that the nazir tahir that became tamei, he takes a haircut on the 7th day, and this nazir that became a nazir when he's tamei does not take haircut. So why doesn't it say so? It says this is the only difference. It only says one difference. They should have said 2 differences. It doesn't help by just saying that the diak is not there, but why doesn't it say it? The Gemara answer is it's also going to be a package deal, that if it says that it doesn't apply the halachas of the 7th day, means if you see that the 7th day could count as the first day, so it's not called the 7th day. The regular 7th day that the Torah talks about over there says that he does not count it. It does not count the 7th day. So here it doesn't have that 7th day halacha, that he does count the 7th day. So it goes a package deal. It goes together. That we don't know why it goes together, but the Gemara is saying maybe it goes together. It's a package deal, very similar to what the Gemara said before in the first terrace. Before we said it goes together with the Kabbanis, now we're saying it goes together with the 7-day process. Since it says in one aspect that it doesn't have, he doesn't go with the regular halacha of the 7th day, because usually the 7th day is not counted, and here the 7th day is counted as day 1. So it doesn't go, the whole 7th day halacha doesn't apply, and usually he does a tiglachas, and here he doesn't do a tiglachas.
You're saying that just as it's not required that he have a full 7 days. So
That's not the way to say it exactly. I think not he doesn't need a full 7 days. Does day 7 count for his first day? So
it does.
Here we're saying that it does. Usually it says that it doesn't. The 7th day does not count. He can't count the 7th day for the first day, and here it does. So it means he's not the regular 7-day man. Whatever it means, whatever the pasuk talks about the 7th day doesn't apply to him. The Torah says about the 7th day 2 things. Let's say it says 2 things.
Would be,
No.
all those other things wouldn't apply.
Right, package deal. The same way, they're similar. What the Gemara uses very different words. Before the Gemara used that ma'atam koma, and here it says kol mili. The Gemara seems to be saying that it's a package deal, the korban and the haircut, or maybe the 7th day and the haircut, and therefore the Gemara is still pushing off that maybe does not need a haircut. Both Rayas so far were trying to prove that he does need a haircut. This person tamei shenazar. That he does need a haircut like everybody else, and each time the Gemara is pushing it off, maybe not. Now goes the third proof, which is a little bit more involved. The question we had reference to this brisa a couple of pages ago, about 3 pages ago. We talked about if somebody in the middle of his Nazirus count, he's counting his 30 days, whatever it is, and he became a Metzorah in middle. Now, really, the Torah talks about a Tamei Mace. That a Tamei Mace, that's what's serious, and he became a Tamei Mace in between. So then he stops. He all those days fall. The days before, he cancels everything. Start again. How about if he became a Metzorah in between? So this Gemara is going to say just we had it before already. It's going to say that it doesn't cancel everything before, but it doesn't count. It's not mavatel everything before. It doesn't cancel everything before, and whatever he did before, hold on to. That was one of the Gemara's cases of a pause. That he had in the Nazirus, and he pauses now because of the Metzorah, and then after the Metzorah is over, he's going to resume where he left off. That's what it's going to say. But it says that here's really the source where we're learning it out from. The Gemara this Bryce is going to learn out the din of a Metzorah who became a Metzorah in the middle of his Nazirus. How does that balance with his Nazirus? Could it be a Nazir and Metzorah at the same time? So the Bryce says, "Ein li'ela yimei tumaso shein olam lo min minyan." The pasuk talks about a tamei mace. Tumasa means that it's tamei mace. That over there says it doesn't count. We're going to see in a second, it even falls also. Not only doesn't it count, it also cancels everything that was before. The days of his tumah don't count, and it also cancels all the days that he counted. He might have counted many days before already. Everything gets canceled. But here we're talking about the fact that it doesn't count. So the pasuk only talks about tumas mace. How about a metzorah? Yimei chaluto menai. The word chaluto has to do with the metzorah mukhlat and the metzorah muska. In the process of becoming a metzorah, so first when he sees a negas, he goes to the kohen. Sometimes there's call it a quarantine. I'm not sure if that's found in Musgar, but there's a process, there's a time that he has to wait to see if they're going to become simanim, and if it's going to stay, it's going to go away. That's called Musgar. Mukhlat means after it's already absolute, that he's an absolute Metzorah. So the Yemei Chaluto, that's what we're talking about. The days that a Metzorah is decided, it's Mukhlat, it's absolute Metzorah. Does that count for his Nazirus days? So the Gemara, the Brisa tries to figure it out without any psukim. They didn't do it. I can learn it out from a svara. Maybe korban. Maybe korban. There's the common denominator between tumas mace of our case of the nazir, not a regular tumas mace. Tumas mace that's in the middle of a nazir, and the mitzorah. A person who became a tamei mace in the middle of his counting the nazirus, the Allah is megalecha maybe korban. That's what it says now. We just looked in the psukim in Parshas Naso that on the 7th day he takes a haircut, and then on the 8th day he brings a korban. There's such a thing similar, very similar by a mitzorah, nothing to do with a nazir. Regular mitzorah in his Torah process also requires that he should cut his hair and bring a korban mitzorah. So that similarity, the Gemara thinks is enough to say that it's the same. Once we have that similarity, now we're going to learn out. Since it has a common denominator that it has to cut his hair and he brings a korban, so the same way we see by tamei mace in the middle of the nazirus that it doesn't count. The days that he's tamei does not count. So too, the days that he's a mitzorah do not count. But the Gemara says no. The Brisa continues. No, it's very different. By the days of a tumah, not only doesn't it count, it even cancels everything before. Low. That's not a good comparison. You made tumasa, we see is much stronger. It's not only the same. Here, the Gemara knows for a fact that even if we're going to come out that the days of saras don't count, it's surely not going to cancel the days before. The only question is if it counts, if you could even count it, and the number of his nazir days, but that it should cancel the days before, surely not. And the Gemara doesn't tell us why it's so simple. The Gemara is that's a given, that it's surely not going to cancel. The Rishonim have to figure out how does the Gemara know that surely it's not going to cancel. But here the Gemara is saying you can't compare mitzorah to tumah because you're surely not going to go all the way to say that it's the same as tumah. Over there it cancels. Lo, imam might be made tumah say that it doesn't count because it even cancels before. She came to Vatal Ben Sakodman, it even cancels what he counted already. The fikach you see is very powerful. Tumah is very terrible as far as nazirus. They don't mix at all. It even cancels everything it did before. But that wouldn't be a raya to mitzorah. Toma be mechaluto that even if you're going to say that it doesn't count, but any Vatal it doesn't cancel what he did already before. So maybe it even counts also. Maybe it does count. So the Brisa says, so far we don't know. What's the din of a mitzorah? Surely it doesn't cancel the days that he counted already. Does it even count? Maybe it counts. The Rishonim talk about how do you know that, why is the Gemara so sure that the mitzorah doesn't cancel all the days before? So they bring a Gemara that the Gemara doesn't really say that. The Gemara is talking about something else. And there's a drasha, they make their own drasha to say that that's a given to the Gemara that you're not going to cancel, the Taras is not going to cancel the days that they already counted. That's a given to the Gemara. So the Brisa continues. We didn't get to our subject yet. So here, again, the subject we're trying to figure out, what's the din of Taras? Someone had as a Taras in the middle of his Nazirus days, does it count or not? Amrit, Uman Nazir Bekever, now we're getting into our subject. The Brisa is talking. Nazir Bekever, that he became a Nazir when he was Tamei, in the cemetery. He said, I'm Nazir in the cemetery. The words are very ambiguous. The Gemara is going to have mamish two ways how to learn the words. It says here, Shesaro Roy Lutiglachas. Our case. This is what it sounds very much what we're looking for. Something about the tiglachas of a nazir bekever. So we're warm. Question is which way we're going. But it says here that the person who made himself a nazir when he was in a cemetery, his hair is fitting for cutting. Whatever that means. Ein olam and aminion. The days that he's tamei don't count. That we know. It says ein olam and aminion. Yimei chaluto she'en roy l'tiglachas lo kol shkein she'en olam and aminion. So kal v'chomer the mitzorah days that the hair is not fitting for a haircut. Surely it doesn't count. That's the end of the brisa. And we have to figure out these words. We have to figure out what do these words mean. These words that say nazir bekever saro roy l'tiglachas. What does that mean? So now the Gemara takes over and tries to figure it out. My love, tiglachas tuma. That his hair, he does get a haircut. What was our question again? This nazir that made himself a nazir when he was tamei, and he has to get out of the tumah, so he counts 7 days, 3 and 7. He gets sprinkled with the mechatas, and now on the 7th day, does he have to cut his hair? So the Gemara thinks that it says over here that he does. That's what the words mean. The Gemara thinks that's what it says. That the glachas tumah, that this person, the nazir bekever, What does it mean that his hair is fitting for cutting? It's supposed to be cut on the 7th day,
Because he's tummy, is that what it means?
even though he's done. I mean, a regular nazir that became, I mean, I'm not sure what you meant to say. A regular nazir that was tahor, and in the middle it became tameh. So in his tahor process, he gets sprinkled the third and 7th day, goes to the mikvah, takes a haircut, and this nazir also, he became a nazir bekever, even though he started his nazirus right away. He was tameh. So also he's supposed to do that tiglachas when he becomes tahor. On the 7th day, he's supposed to take a haircut, and we have to learn. We have to somehow say pshat in the brisa. That's a reason to make a kal v'chomer that if he takes a haircut on the 7th day, so a mitzorah that his hair is not going to be cut, local skin, that it doesn't count. If this person that he's closer, he's more reason that it should count. It should count his days of tumah. This far is very hard. I'm just going to say, I don't get this far. But we're talking about, did the tumah days or the tzaras days, do they count for his count? He has a 30-day count. He has to make a 30-day, 100-day, whatever he made up. Does it count? So here's a svara that a mitzorah, his hair is not going to be cut. So that's more reason why his days shouldn't count. The one who became a kal v'chomer, the nazir who became nazir when he's tameh, his hair is going to be cut on the 7th day, and his days don't count. Those which days don't count? The days that it was tameh don't count. So the mitzorah that his hair is not going to be cut, surely the days of the mitzorah don't count for his 30-day count. The Gemara is going to say in a second, the Gemara doesn't know what these words mean. A mitzorah does cut his hair. Every mitzorah cuts his hair. What does it mean that mitzorah doesn't cut his hair? The Gemara is going to say, yeah, sure he cuts his hair, but he doesn't cut his hair l'shem nazirus. He cuts his hair because he's a mitzorah. So the Gemara sees the fact that he cuts his hair on the 7th day, this nazir kever, that he cuts his hair, that's the reason why the days of tumah should have counted more, because you see that he's I don't get it. I have to say I don't get it. He's a nazir tumah. A nazir tumah, the days don't count. The Gemara has some svara here. The Gemara thinks, at least in Havamina, that the tiglachas that he does, the fact that he cuts his hair when he gets out of the tumah and he's starting now his 30-day count, the fact that he took a haircut is the reason why he should have counted have counted the days of tumah. I don't make sense out of that. One more time, I say the words, but I'm not making any sense out of it.
You're saying that the fact that he's really to cut his hair.
He's supposed to cut his hair on the 7th day.
Cut his hair, and yet it doesn't count.
What doesn't count? The days that he was tummy.
The days that he was
Tummy don't count.
So
So
somebody who doesn't have to cut his hair.
surely the days should not count.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't begin to get it. Like I was saying opposite. That why is it
All the more so.
he's cutting because it wasn't good. Like that's all canceled. Cut your hair, start again. But the Gemara looks at it that he's some Nazirus dik. Like he sees in the parsha of Nazirus. I don't get it. Nazirus, but that was the tummy part. That's the part you throw away. So I don't get it. But the Gemara thought that these words mean that the hair of the Nazir Bekever means that he's going to cut his hair on the 7th day and bring a raya from here that our question that the Nazir Tameh, the Nazir Bekever does have to cut his hair on the 7th day. That's my love tiglachas tuma. But the Gemara says no, it doesn't mean that, or not necessarily. Not necessarily tiglachas tara. Mamish the exact opposite. So what does tiglachas tara mean? Of course, he has tiglachas tara. Tiglachas tara means at the end of it. Now, after you got out of it, this nazir bekever, he got out of it. It's going to say mamish the exact opposite. It's not going to just say something else. Like no, it's almost something else. It's going to say mamish the exact opposite. This nazir bekever. His hair, he has hair. He has hair while he's tummy, right? Is this hair going to be around when he's going to do the Nazirus Tara? He took 7 days to get out of his tumah. 3rd and 7th, sprinkle, went to the mikvah. We don't know if he took a haircut. We're going to say, no, he didn't take a haircut. He does not take a haircut. And then he counts his 30 days. That day happens to count for day 1. He gets to day 30. And then at the end of the Nazirus, he's supposed to cut his hair. That's what it says in the Torah, that he puts his hair under the dude over there that he so he cuts it. That's called tiglachas tara. Every nazir has tiglachas at the end of his nazirus. So here it says that the hair is going to be around at the time of his cutting the nazirus tara.
This hair is going to be cut.
This here is going to be, why is this here going to be cut? Because he didn't cut it now.
Because he didn't cut it and it's
And after 7 days. After he has 7 days of Tumah, and then let's say 30 days of Tahara.
So then he cuts it, then that's the entire it's cut.
That's another way of saying that it's not going to be cut now. The Metzorah, when he finishes his saras, he has to take a haircut because of the saras. That's part of the Tahara process of a Metzorah, that he has to cut his hair at the end in the process of becoming Torah. So when he's going to resume his zeros, he started the zeros. He became a Metzorah. And then the Metzoras is over and he's going to resume. But that resuming is going to be without his hair because he has to cut the hair at the end of the Saras. So that's more reason that it should not count. This makes sense to us, I think. This makes more sense. That the Saras is a Kal V'chomer that it shouldn't count. The Nazir Tameh, his hair, that is the hair that he had on his head when he was a Nazir Tameh, is going to be around at the end of the whole Nazirus. On the 30th day, when he finishes his Nazirus, when he's going to cut his hair in the base of Mikdash, the hair that is on his head now is going to be there. Why? Because he does not count his hair. So I'm saying the exact opposite that we thought. Not only it's talking about something else, it's talking about this thing. And it's saying that he does not cut his hair on the 7th day, and therefore the hair that is here during this 7 days, during this Tumah, is going to be around at the end. So he's very Nazirus. You see, he's not so dismissed from the Nazirus. And over there, and still you say that the days of Tumah don't count. So Kal V'chomer, the Metzorah, who does have to cut his hair after his Saras, and even when he resumes to become a Nazir, he's not going to have that hair on him anymore. So surely it should not count for the minion. So according to this, not only did we say that it's not a proof that he does cut his hair on the 7th day, if we read it this way, it's a proof the opposite, that it does not cut his hair on the 7th day. First thing, wants to even prove that this is the pshat. You can't say the pshat that he said tiglachas tumah, and it's going to say because what do you mean to say that the Metzorah doesn't cut his hair? Of course, the Metzorah cuts his hair. Top of the next page. How could you say we're talking about the tiglachas after he finishes the tumah, and it says by this nazir there is a tiglachas, and the Metzorah there's no tiglachas after he finishes his tumah? Of course there is. Every Metzorah has to cut his hair after he finishes the saras. The Gemara says, "Lo, tiglachas the nazirus katani." It does, yeah, for sure he cuts his hair, but it's not going to be on his. So the Gemara that says it's not. You don't have dachinam esavra, but you don't have a right. We can still learn that it means the way we said that he does not cut his hair. Excuse me. He does not cut his hair, and the hair is left around. When he's going to finally cut it, the hair is going to be around. Kal V'chomer to the Metzorah, that his hair is not going to be around. So far, we have 3 proofs that the Gemara tried each time to say that he does cut his hair on the 7th day, and each time we knocked down the proof, and we said maybe not. Now comes the final raya, and this raya is going to be simple and beferish, and we're going to close the case. It's going to say beferish in the brisa that this nazir that became a nazir when he was in the base of Kvaris, he does cut his hair. He does not. He does not cut his hair on the 7th day. We brought 3 rayas that he does. Each time we knocked it down, and here it's going to be a fresh raya that he does not, and it's going to say openly, nothing complicated. It says in the pasuk v'timei rosh Nizro, the pasuk that talks about the nazir becoming tamei. It says that he was tor, and then he became tamei because a mace died, the fesach pisom. So it says that the head of his nazirus becomes tamei. So the Brisa says we're just talking about this case that he was tor and he became tamei. The Torah shenitma kasem adaber. That's the case where it says all these halachas. Shuatan avor seir. He needs tiglachas and a korban. Tavor seir means taking off his hair. That's called tiglachas. He does it on the 7th day, and bringing the birds, which is the korban he brings on the 7th day. But it's coming to say the opposite. The lifter is an nazir bekever. She'ain kan avor seir v'avar. That's what we're looking for. This is mamash open. It says openly over here. That's what we wanted. These words is the Freish of Brisa. It says in the Brisa that only a person who was tor and became tamei, he's the one who has to cut his hair on the 7th day and bring a korban on the 8th day. But a person who was a nazir from the beginning, he was tamei, not in the cemetery, nazir when he's tamei, So then he doesn't cut his hair and he doesn't mean the kabbanis. He doesn't mean the kabbanis is Perish Mishnah, but here it also says in the Brisa he doesn't cut his hair. So Perish Brisa, but he doesn't cut his hair. We'll sum it up in a second, just to finish the Brisa. Uma Tor Shenitmo Ton Havor Seva Havor Siporin Misha Yatami Metchila Eno Din Shei Ton Havor Seva Havor Siporin. You need a person to tell us this because as far we said it would have said if a Torah that became Tamei, he has to have this process in order to get out of it. To cut his hair and to bring the karbanis. We would have thought that if he was Tamei from the beginning, he surely has to cut his hair and bring the karbanis. So the pasuk says no, he doesn't. Talmud Lama, but Timei Rosh Israel to say Dafka if he was Torah and he became Tamei. He's the one, the one who was Torah and became Tamei. He's the one Shei Tana Bor Say Havor Siporin, but the person knows a bekever that he does not. Shmamina. So Perishah Brisa Dash is a pasuk that a person who was Tamei from the beginning, he became a nazir. When he's Tamei, he doesn't cut his hair. And that's the end of that. Just to sum it up, what do we have about a nazir that became a nazir when he was Tamei? The Naziris is Chal, and he's Chayv Malkus if he transgresses it. He has to get Tohor as soon as he can. And he does not take a haircut on the seventh day. And he counts the seventh day as day one. And then he goes on with his Naziris. That's the summary of the halachas that it said in about this Nazir Shatami, which is relevant to anybody who becomes a Nazir nowadays. That's the case. It is Chal, he's Chayv Malkus. If he transgresses any of those halachas on the seventh, this part doesn't happen already. But if you have the paradum, when the paradum is going to come, so he's going to do the sprinkle on the third and seventh day, and then not take a haircut on the seventh day. It doesn't have to.
If he became a Nazir.
No. So into another, we're Nazir Tamei, back to home base.
Nazir.
A Nazir Tamei means a Tamei Shanazir. He became a Nazir when he was Tamei already.
Yeah.
So there's no korban on the 8th day. There's not a teglachas on the 7th day. And as far as the beginning of the sugya, that it takes effect, and he's chayv malchus if he transgresses it. These two halachas are different. That he doesn't take a haircut on the 7th day, and he doesn't bring kabbanis on the 8th day. And he becomes Torah as soon as he can, and then he finishes his naziris.
But we still don't know if he's not chayv malchus just becoming nazir.
So we said that he is. That if
so all these tzaddikim became nazirim, they're chayv malchus.
The only thing you might say is that's talking about in the basic chorus. Maybe it's worse to be in the basic chorus. Maybe it's worse to be in the basic chorus. That he's mamish doing the Isra of a Nazir to be in the basic chorus.
We're learning along.
There's no difference as far as all these halachas, but as far as the Chayv Malchus, maybe it's only going into the basic chorus, but maybe he wouldn't be Chayv Malchus for making himself a Nazir Tamei. Maybe yes, I don't know, but he's saying there must not be.
Does he need a sword?
Yeah, it wouldn't be Chayv Malchus only with a sword, but it's a mistake. But it means that it's an Avera. I'm just saying it's an Avera. Is it a big tzaddik or is it an Avera? You could be a Nazir Torah, so then you could be a Kodesh. But if it's Tamei, so what's the thing to be? You can become a what?
A nazir even today is not allowed to become tamei,
Right.
So if you're in the basic forest, you're making yourself
tamei.
You're making yourself tamei by being in the basic forest.
But he's still asking. But he's making himself a nazir tamei. Maybe that's also another.
That's okay.
Maybe not. I hear. I mean, I don't know. But I guess from the stories that we know, the big tzaddikim that they became the zero, they probably went into the sugi. I hope they went to the sugi. Rab David the Cohen.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that they went through his.
He was very careful about that.
In other words, someone who's tamei, as long as they don't put themselves in a situation, if they would be tahor, they'd continue to be tahor, is different than being in the basic forest.
Right. If someone going to basic forest is definitely even if a person is tamei already, another tamei. But if he goes again to the basic forest, he's going to be. That's also going to be higher. He's going into the basic forest again.
He's just out in the world.
He's out in the world because before he became a nazir, he was tamei. Like nowadays, people have been tamei, and then he's going to become a nazir. Even though he's going to become a nazir tamei, maybe it's not an avera. Maybe that's not going to be high.
The worst example of Malchus was that he was in the basic forest.
Right. But on the other hand, it is true that all the examples are more juggled back and forth. If he's in the basic forest or he's tamei, they want to differentiate. But as far as becoming chayv malchus to becoming a nazir tamei, maybe that's not from the basic forest. Okay, new sugya. The new sugya is you're gonna, how do you say, like the floor is gonna come from under, like the things that whatever was taken granted.
whatever they say.
They
something
pull
about
the rug from under.
They're gonna pull
That
the
whole
rug
time,
from
right,
under.
under. The whole time we're talking as if it's push it. That when do you start counting? A regular nazir, the biggest Torah, became Tomei. And he counts 7 days to become Torah. And takes a haircut on the 7th day. It means the Kabbalah is on the 8th day. When does he start counting? The new count. So we said the whole time, it's on the 8th day. This person was special. He counts on the 7th day. He doesn't do Teglachas, he doesn't do a korban, but he counts already the first day is already on the 7th day of his time, he can count to the first day. But it was like a given the whole time. We spoke for that special.
That was Tamei Nazir.
That was
Tamei Nazir.
a nazir that became Tamei.
But they called it Tamei Nazir. Tamei Shen Nazir.
He's the exception. He's different. He's going to
Yeah.
count on the 7th day. But Nazir Tohish and Nitma, so then he doesn't count. He doesn't start counting
Shen Nazir.
the new count only after the korbanos. He goes and he does the 3rd and 7th day to become Torah, takes a haircut on the 7th day, brings the korbanos on the 8th day, and then he starts counting. And he doesn't count the 7th day, he counts the 8th day. And if you look in the pasuk, that's what it seems to say, the Farish. That's how
The order of them, so
the order of the psukim, that's what it says. Here it says, if we have on the screen, pasuk 9, 10. Kiyamus Mesa Allah Professor Person, if somebody dies and he became Tamei, so his years became Tamei, he cuts his hair on the day that it becomes Torah, which is the 7th day. On the 8th day, he brings the korbanos. Pasuk 11 and one chatas, one ha'olah. This is the pasuk, Vayamahu. And he starts sanctifying his head on that day. On which day? Look what it said. It said I did another one just for fun to do another. Here it is.
The Yom should be
This is the psukim 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yom HaShmini,
Someone died,
Yom Ha-
he Yom HaShmini. Yom HaShmini means the korbanos, and then it says V'kidash es rosho v'yomahu, which means that he starts sanctifying his head on that day. Which day? He said 7, 8,
Going
v'yomahu.
chronological.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that it's
The
no
eighth day.
question that the Pashup Shot is
The 8th day.
the 8th day. I think what was the question about it? Here goes the Gemara. And this is like not our subject. We finished with the Nazir Tamei. The Tamei, the basic, not Nazir basic parts. We finished. We're going back now to the basics. Learning Chumash. Man Tana. Who's the Tana of the following brisa, which we had already a couple of times?
Mhm.
Man Tana lo the Tana Rabbana. Ein bein Tamei shenazir lenazir Torah shenitmar. There's no difference between the Tamei that made himself a Nazir or the Tahor that became Tamei. Ella shetamei shenazir shvi shelo od laman minyan. Our case, that he became a Nazir, the basic chorus when he was Tamei. Day 7 could count for day 1. But Nazir, Torah, Shenitma, which is the Torah's case, and Shvi Shalom Od Lo Min. The 7th day doesn't count, he doesn't count until the 8th day. So who's that? We say it's fresh pasuk in the Torah. Rebbe, that's only Rebbe. Rebbe is going to argue. Rebbe and Nazir is Tarach Allah Ella Al Shmini. He doesn't start counting the new count until the 8th day. Because there's somebody that argues, the Tema, as we'll see in a second, he says they start counting the new count from the 7th day. It's fascinating. He counts the 3rd and 7th day, goes to the mikvah. He doesn't take it, he takes a haircut. He brings the korbanos on the 8th day, but the 8th day is already the 2nd day of his count. On the 7th day, he already starts counting. But we said the whole time that no, that he counts on the 8th day. He says he counts on the 7th day. So that's it. So it must be our brisa that said that he counts only on the 8th day as being the first. It's only Rebbe. Basically, argues, and not Gemara means just the background. My Rebbe, my Rebbe. Where do you see this brisa about Rebbe and Rebbe? Yehuda, the Tanya, the Kidash es Rosho Bayomahu. That's supposed to be the Surah. The Kidash. The Kidash es Rosho Bayomahu. This pasuk here, pasuk 11. The Kidash es Rosho. What's Bayomahu? What's Bayomahu? The Kidash es Rosho Bayomahu. B'yom havos kabanos. They were Rebbe. The day brings the kabanos. The base of Yudom Rebbe Yom Tiklachto, and they took a haircut the day before. Fascinating. Okay, so we have Brisa, we have Machlokes Rebbe Yudom Rebbe. Our Brisa goes like Rebbe, that he starts counting on the 8th day, not on the 7th day. The Gemara is going to go back on the bottom of the page. The Gemara is going to come back to where they got it from. There's another Mishnah that's in Maseches Krisos that the Gemara is going to now analyze it and say that it's only Rebbe Yudom, not Rebbe. But it now we learned the Mishnah. Nazir Shenitma. Tumas Harbe. Anyway, we have a korban echad. That's the Mishnah. A Nazir that became Tamei many times, he just means one korban. Means we had in the Torah, if someone Nazir becomes Tamei, so he brings a korban on the 8th day. What if he became tummy many times? Does he bring many korbanos? So it says no. Even if he became tummy many times, he only brings one korban.
One set of couple.
One set of korbanos, right? The korban is patas and ola, that's birds, and then asham, that's a kevis. So who's the author of that Mishnah? Mantana. So Rav Chisda said Dafka B'Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Chisda B'Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda, that he holds that the Nazir starts on the 7th day. The Amar Nazir starts Mishvi Chayla. That the new Nazir starts on the 7th day. Here it says, I put in parentheses just because I don't understand it so well, but I didn't find any gears of change. Here it says he became Tamei on the 7th day and became Tamei again on the 7th day. And the Chiddush is that he doesn't, so it's called that he was Tamei many times. And the Chiddush is only brings one korban. I'll just read the words first. Kivan, the lo yatsa shah rui lavi korban, since he didn't get yet to the time that he can bring a korban, it's not the 8th day, it's the 7th day. He became Tamei on the 7th day. So then, it's a continuation of the Tumah that he was before, and he brings one korban for both Tumas. If the Mishnah would be Rebbe wouldn't hold like that. Because either Nitma B'Shvi, because of Nitma B'Shvi, Kulu Tumah Arichtahi. He didn't yet get onto the day, the 7th day, he didn't yet get royalty for a korban. So it wouldn't be called Naziris Harbe. It wouldn't be called Tumas Harbe. It wouldn't be called he became Tamei many times. Because he didn't even, it wouldn't be even a Chiddush. It wouldn't be called Tumas Harbe because he didn't get yet into a day where you could bring the korban for the first one. So it goes without saying. It's one big Tumah, and surely he only brings one korban. What are you going to say? B'Shmini, Nitma B'Shmini, V'chaz Nitma B'Shmini, Yatsa Shar Shui Lavi korban, and he should have to bring a korban for each one. The Gemara is saying it's partial. According to Rebbe, if he became Tamei on the 8th day, he does have to, even though he didn't bring the korban yet, he does have to bring another korban for each Tumah because he was roy to bring the korban since it was the 8th day, and in the morning he's ready to bring a korban already. So if he became Tamei, he would have to bring another korban. The way the Gemara keeps on saying it is they became Tamei on the 7th and again on the 7th. The 7th again on the 7th. The 8th again on the 8th. I don't get it. I thought it's talking about, Rashi doesn't seem to be Goris that. I looked in the Gear source, I didn't find it. The case of L'chora is a regular case. He was Tamei. It takes a 7-day process in order to become Tor. And then the question is, did he become Tamei again on the 7th day or the next day?
They became twice.
What's the difference twice? What does twice mean? What if it would have
On
been
the 7th day, he brought his korbanos already.
No. The korbanos is
okay.
8th day.
Oh.
So I would have read it without all these shvi and shvi. I would have read it Kigon Shenitma, and he's in the middle of the process of becoming Tor, and he became Tamei on the 7th day.
You're saying that he became Tamei twice.
He became that twice. What does it mean? What does it mean? On the same day, he became Tamei twice. That's surely nothing. If he became Tamei 2 times on the same day, the whole issue would be if how far is he out of his
But if
one Tumah?
he's in the Nazirus and he became Tamei twice.
So what would be the case? That means here the Gemara talks about how many kabbalas he brings. The Gemara says that if he's already, if he's
the previous korban.
he started his count, and I would think even though according to this gersa, it means it happened many times. I'm not sure. I didn't see it, but I would think that it means this gersa would mean that he became Tamei and he did it 7 days. On the 7th day, he became Tamei again. He started counting then he did another shlishi or shvi to get out of that, and again on the 7th day. But not that he became Tamei 2 times on the 7th day. That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I would have taken out the word altogether. And Rashi doesn't seem to have it. The way Rashi or the Mefarish, the way he explains it, he doesn't talk about this fancy case. The other Mefarishim do, but they don't comment on it. So I'm just the point of the Gemara is to say without the details. This is a detail about the word shvi, but without the details, the Gemara seems to say if you start counting, but basically says you start counting on the 7th day, even though it doesn't mean the Kabbalah is still the 8th day. So then it's called, since you started counting in Nun Nazirus, so there's a Chiddush that even though he started counting as Nun Nazirus and it became Tamei, that he only brings one korban.
He's still before the korban.
Because he's before the korban. On one hand, he started the new count. On the other hand, he didn't bring his korban. So there's a Chiddush that you only bring one korban. But according to Rebbe, that you don't start counting the Nun Nazirus until the 8th day. So on the 7th day is Pashut. You didn't start a Nun Nazirus. You didn't bring your one. That's not nothing. That's not a Chiddush. And if it is the 8th, if it's the 8th day, then he's going to start counting, but that's already also right to bring the korban. So for sure, he should bring 2 korbanos. The Gemara says it can't be Rebbe Yehuda, Rebbe, because it wouldn't make sense that he became Tamei twice and he only brings 1 korban. If it's the 7th day, it's called one big tumah, and if it's the 8th day, he takes 2 korbanos. So it must be Rebbe Yossi, Rebbe Yehuda.
They start counting on the 7th day.
He's not counting on the 7th day, and he came Tamei again. You don't bring the korbanos till the next day. So that's a chiddush, even though it's called 2 tumas, because he started counting his new count. And he became Tamei again, you might think he has to bring 2 korbanos. No. So we have machlokis. That's my favorite. 1 second. That's Perish machlokis. Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, and the Rabbanan, and Rebbe, and Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, what the pasuk means. When it says V'kiddush Yisroel Shabbat Yom, it doesn't mean the pasuk Shabbat, the 8th day, or it means yesterday. Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, we'll get to that in a second. Our brisa that took for granted that the case of the Torah is the 8th day, that's Rebbe. Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda would have said the 7th day. And the Mishnah increases that talks about a nazir that became tamei twice. He brings only one korban tumah, is only Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, that he starts his count on the 7th day. That's considered two tumas, and still as a chiddush only brings one korban. According to Rabbi, wouldn't be true. Either wouldn't be a chiddush, it wouldn't be a case of 2 tumas, or it would bring another korban. That's the end of that. We got up to the bottom, 4 lines from the bottom, and we go to explain the basics. Doesn't make sense. My time of the Rebbe. Where's Rebbe get that? Bayam who means the 8th day. The answer is because that's what it says. Omakra, we'll look in the Pesukim. What's what it says? What did it say a second ago? Which is what it says right before that. In Pasuk 11, you bring the Karbanos. Means if the Gemara would have wanted, it could have bring the whole Pasuk 10 and 11. That's what it says. On the 8th day, he brings the 2 Karbanos, and the Kohen does them, one for all, one for Chatas, and the Kohen's Mechaper on him for becoming Tameh, and he starts counting. What does Rav Yossi Rav Yehuda do? The Rav Yossi Rav Yehuda, what does he do? It would have been enough. You're right. It's very nice. And I'll say a secret. I think that the Rav Yossi Rav Yehuda, when he taught Chumash to the kids, he also said V'yamahu means the 8th day. He's not saying he's not saying that the reading of the pasuk says the 7th. Yeah.
He's also saying
in the pshat when he taught the kids Chumash, he also said what it says. But now he's coming into the drash world. And the drash world, these 2 words are extra. It should have said, the Kiddush is Rosham. It's understood. On the 8th day, he brings the Kabbanas, and he says, start counting. It has to say on that day. It's an extra word. So the extra word is going to be a drash to say it means the 7th day. So I think that in the pshat, in the Chumash class, he taught that it means on the 8th day. Then you have to come to Mishnah's class, that there's a drash that it means the 8th day, and they're going to say, but Rebbe, you told us the 7th, the 8th day. That's the pshat. Now we're learning the drash, and of course the halacha is going to be like the drash, but it doesn't mean the pshat changes. The pshat still means the 8th day. I think it's partial, but people don't.
very nice.
He's not around to ask.
Who's not around?
Rebbe.
But I'm sure he would say that. He himself, he's saying a drash. It should have said Kadesh Shosho. Bayomahu lamali. Extra words. The answer is, look what he says. Emenu inyan l'shmini. Today inyan l'shvi. This is mamish like a drash lashon. If you can't, it's not necessary for the 8th day. So then it's coming to tell you that it's referring to the 7th day. So you talk to learn like an upside shot that he takes a haircut. He counts 3 and 7. He takes a haircut. The next day he brings the kabbanas, and he counts from yesterday. The Kiddush is Rosho from yesterday. The Gemara just has a difficulty. What's Rebbe going to do with that? That's a good kasha. Why say B'yomahu in the Drash world? Why does it say B'yomahu? Rebbe Rami Yaksiv B'yomahu. Amalacha Rebbe Yahu Lahach Yudasa. Lamalacha Afapi Shaloi B'Karbonosa. The pasuk is telling you that he starts counting even if he didn't bring his korban. He only counts from the 8th day. What's the regular process? You take your haircut on the 7th day. You bring the korban on the 8th day.
The pasuk says you bring korbanos
and you count. And you might think if you didn't bring the korban, you might have thought that you can't count. You can't start counting until you bring the korban. So the pasuk says it's not market. That day he starts regardless. Extra pasuk to tell you that he can start counting regardless. Even if for some reason he didn't bring the korban, he still could count. I'd count.
So everybody agrees that the Yamahu is extra.
Yes. So Rav Yosef
sometimes I thought people say they don't hold by that drash, or they don't hold by.
Sometimes sometimes it'll say that that's the way you talk.
That's the way you talk.
But here it's not so much the way you talk, it seems to be extra. Of course, on the drash level, on the pshat level, yeah, it's a question. Why say on
So
that
his
day?
drush is that Rebbe's drush is that you start counting even if you didn't bring them for the
Right, and Rabbi Yosef says that you count from yesterday. Yashikoch, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chuckle?
okay.
Thank you. Have a good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
And what's the Shabbos? When do we start?
Last week was 7 o'clock when it was tight. You want to make it 7:15?
Everybody's good with
Yeah,
that?
that's good.
7:15? 7:15. Dr. Fine, have a good Shabbos. We won't see him. What's the Shabbos?
No,
Good Shabbos.
okay. See you Sunday, hopefully.
Okay.
Right now it's.
Have a good Shabbos.